Hi, my name is Sandra de Californie. I was born here in Los Angeles, California, July 15th, 1974. Both of my parents were both born here in Los Angeles as well. Their families may not have necessarily came from Los Angeles. Both of my maternal parents, my grandmother, my mother's family, came from Texas. My father's family, his mom was born here in Los Angeles. His father, on the other hand, was born, I believe, in Chicago. So I have a diversity of family members. My father was in the U.S. Air Force, so he went in there and he studied communications. So he's a communications technician, where he went from working for the government to, in the military that is, to working for Motorola with the cell phones in the early days before they got so small that they fit in your pocket, to working for the city of Los Angeles with the police department, to DWP, where he retired. My mother, on the other hand, her early days of my childhood, she stayed home and took care of me and my sister. Later on, she decided she wanted to go to work when me and my sister started going to school, so she dabbled in doing dental assisting, and when the AIDS scare came along, she was a bit scared of bringing that home to her family, so she left that and started doing secretarial type work. Los Angeles. I didn't spend most of my childhood in Los Angeles. My early days of childhood, I traveled with my father in the since he was in the Air Force. We lived in different parts of California, so I don't remember much about that. In my early days, we were in Germany, Wiesbaden, and that's where I actually started school. And that was a really nice, close-knit community when you got to know the people in your little area that you lived in. We did move back when I started first grade here in California, and I pretty much stayed close to my family, my mother's family and a bit of my father's family. And I really didn't see a lot of the city because my family kept me very sheltered. But what I did see, it seemed like a really happy place to live. When I was a kid, I started kindergarten, and I was a pretty independent child. So after a while, I insisted to my parents that I walk to the bus stop and home from the bus stop. So I had the freedom of doing that, whereas being here in California growing up, I really did not get those freedoms of being able to walk home without having an adult escort to make sure I stayed safe. I remember elementary school. My cousins went to the neighboring junior high school, and they would tell my mom, or the classmates would tell my mom, that there was going to be some sort of a gang problem. And she would end up going to go pick up my cousins from their school. So I first started school in Germany. Have no idea what the name of the school was, connected with the U.S. government and the military. When I got stateside and started school, I went to Warren Lane for a year. For a couple of years, my parents sent me to a Lutheran private school. Then after that, I went to Los Angeles Public School, which was Dublin Elementary School. Then Orville Wright Junior High School to Westchester High School, which is where I graduated. In elementary school here in the States, even junior high school, I was a decent student. I was not a straight A's. I pretty much got B's and C's. Teachers would always usually have something positive to say about me. Elementary school, the teachers have more of a close-knit connection to their students because you stay with them all day. So I had one teacher who just so happened to be my mother's elementary school teacher. And she really took a liking to me, and to the point that my classmates referred to me as teacher's pet because of my good behavior.
So what high school did you go to?
I went to Westchester, where I had pretty much a good time being there. I did my studies as I did. I was attempting to take college prep courses to get me prepared to go to college, but it didn't seem to pan out because of my parents going through a divorce at that time. My first job was in high school working at Burger King. It was a job I got by accident. I was just on a random day with my sister and her friends and one of mine, and Just so happens they were opening up a new Burger King in the mall, and they all filled out an application that day. I didn't feel like I was dressed appropriately to go out for a job, so I didn't bother. But my sister and one of her friends got the job. So they had gone for their training, and after the training was done and they were being placed into their location of working, they called to try to figure out what time my sister could go to work. My mother had just been in a car accident with me and my sister, so she was not in her right state of mind after the accident because of medication and the pain from having whiplash and whatnot, that she didn't realize that they were looking for my sister for the job position to do the placement, and they ended up talking to me and asking me for my time, when was I available, and because they felt bad about having me come in for something that they made a mistake on and they still actually needed the extra help, they gave me the position anyway. I attempted to go to a junior college, which seemed to be a little bit more than I could handle as far as education. The demands were a little too high, so I ended up going to trade school. The first one was for cosmetology to do hair. The second one was massage therapy, which is a therapeutic help for people in the medical field. My favorite job, I worked in a movie theater after, well, I guess in the 90s. I stayed there for almost 10 years, and I made a lot of good friends, or actually not a lot, a couple of good friends, who I still somewhat talk to today. 10 years ago, I met my husband, and we have a 7-year-old son. My husband is a Muslim. He's the reason I converted to Islam. I was raised in a family, my grandfather, actually as my step-grandfather, was a very religious person. He believed that a family that prays together stays together. So with my husband Simba being Muslim himself, I felt that even if I didn't convert, I should at least learn the religion and practice it alongside him. My knowledge of Islam was very thin, but for whatever reason, I had a lot of Muslims that passed through my life. I had a lady in the neighborhood I grew up in who would teach the kids how to greet people Islamically. Okay, when I was growing up, there was a lady that was in our neighborhood who would pass by and teach the children how to greet each other Islamically. Junior high school, my PE coach. I didn't know at the time he was Muslim, but with what I've learned now.
What do you think about Muslims around the world now, especially what the media has to say about them?
I don't think the media paints Muslims in the proper light. People are people, they do things for reasons. And without having all information about the reasons that they do what they do, there's a chance and opportunity for people to misunderstand. The people that I've come across as far as Muslims, they're some of the most kindest people that you could possibly meet. I think getting out and basically showing people by your own personal actions what it is to be a Muslim would be a good help. People, with the way the media paints Muslim and Islam, is really negative. It says basically that people are constantly warring, they're always fighting with somebody, and it really is not so. They're fighting for basically to be who they are as far as their culture and their religion says they should be. And it's not right for another group of people who have a different culture, a different religion, to come in and say, this is right, this is wrong. But if you're going out and showing people how to be, because you're following your practice to your best of ability and your understanding, and you're showing that regardless of what religion you're practicing, you're a good person, you show that Islam is possibly a good thing that you may want to look into for your own personal practice. I think it does have a longevity. The United States has always been a place that has been looked at as being a melting pot. It's different cultures, different ideologies, different beliefs coming together and becoming one. And as long as people work together, learn about each other,